Hi, my name's Owen. I work at Urbane Cyclist. I'm one of the worker owners here. We're going to talk a little about some winter bike setup in a fairly basic sense today. We want to focus mainly on just kind of getting out on the road, safely tackling better traction by improving tire choice. We're going to talk a little bit about braking, and we're also going to talk a little bit about basic kind of lubrication and maintenance for your chain and your bike. So a lot of folks are running single speeds, there's not a lot of tire clearance, and they want to continue riding through the winter. Single speeds can be a great option because really low maintenance, less moving parts, meaning your derailleurs and your shifting and stuff won't get messed up from salt, corrosion, freezing water, as well as just general gunk from the road. First up here is going to be the CX Pro. CX Pro is kind of an interesting tread. Not too wide, it's 30 millimeters wide, which means often you can actually still fit this between a little caliper brake without a lot of space. The downside is if you want to try running fenders and a larger tire like this at 30 millimeters wide with a knobby profile, it's going to be a little tough to fit in. Number two is going to be the Schwalbe CX Comp. Similar, but one of the things I like about this, it's actually going to have a little puncture resistant belt. You'll notice it's a little smoother tread in the center, larger shoulder knob. That means you're going to have a larger contact patch. So when you're going a straight line, you actually don't have to worry as much about kind of losing traction. You have a little more aggressive bite here, but it's going to perform better than your average slick tire compared to what you'd see coming stock on a single speed. One of my top choices here is going to be not a winter tire, but your best bet for a truly all-season tire. That's the Schwalbe Marathon. The Marathon's a super popular option for touring cyclists, great for commuting. You'll notice it has this great reflective sidewall. Compare this to like an all-season car tire. It is a softer compound than you'll see on a lot of tires. That being said, it's going to have good channeling to allow moisture to come through. One of the big features it has is a big puncture-resistant belt right down in the middle. That means you're going to have much better luck having a much more reliable bike. In the winter, because of all the added moisture, often small bits of debris, glass, and maybe metal shards even, will stick to your tire. You end up riding over them repeatedly and they work their way in. This is thick enough that it's actually probably going to be able to withstand a lot more punctures than your typical bike tire. None of these are actually winter tires, but they're a great option if you have limited clearance and you won't be able to fit a truly large, knobby, or more aggressive studded tire for winter cycling. We're going to switch into truly winter tires. Big difference here, mainly winter tires like the Michelin Star Grip here are designed a little wider. General tire size is going to be anywhere from 35 up to around 40 millimeters wide. The softer compound stays more supple, more grippy. It's also got a really interesting pattern to kind of maximize traction if you have really loose, wet snow. Also come with that reflective sidewall just like the Schwalbe Marathons. So it's great to just be a little more visible to cars. Next up, we have the Contact Spike from Continental. This is a lightly studded tire, so not as aggressively studded, still a fairly traditional rounder profile. Similar to the Star Grip, utilizing a nice soft compound, so nice and flexy in cold conditions. It's going to have these carbide studs, which are really great for biting into ice. A challenge we have here in Toronto, a lot of people say, oh, I've lived in X, Y, Z, colder conditions with more snow. It's about the variable temperatures we see here. We see temperatures up and down repeatedly, so you'll have slush that freezes into really uneven shapes. And if you want to be the most safe, the most comfortable in all days, you're going to want to get something with a stud. The stud is the only thing that's going to protect you against pure ice. This is the Winter Plus. This actually has even more rows, so not only in the center tread, but moving to the shoulder, you're going to have a much more aggressive profile. It's going to be a little weightier because you're adding a bunch of metal to your tires, but additionally, just like the Marathon we talked about earlier, it actually has that beefed up center section. So not only is it extremely robust, but it also has these really aggressive knobs throughout the tread. A little more open, somewhat like those first tires we were talking about that are a little more like a mountain bike tire. But this is probably one of the top choices overall. This is also coming in at 40 millimeters wide for 700C. And this is a new one we have here. This is from 45 North. This is a 650B tire. So if 650B doesn't make sense to you, you probably can ignore this. A lot of bikes now are coming with 650B tires, and it's really exciting to have a nice option here. 38 millimeters wide, so it gives lots of clearance if you want to run a full fender. I personally find a little narrower in our winters is generally better. The larger tire tends to skate across the top, so it means you will shift around. You'll have better traction overall, but when you start to lose traction, you can kind of feel it slip. Something like this is going to kind of sink into the snow a little better, and you'll actually find the asphalt below. This again, aggressively studded, quite deep channels, a little softer and a little lighter. So this is kind of more of a fun, playful winter tire if you want to just kind of go out and do some long rides on your days off. All right, so touching back on if you have maybe a single speed, this would also reflect if you have an older road bike you want to make more roadworthy for the winter. A really important thing to talk about is braking. As good of the traction you can have with a better winter tire, if you can't stop, you're not really making your bike much safer. We're not going to talk about disc brakes today. We're going to focus mainly on road bikes and older hybrids that are going to be using a rim brake. So if you are riding a road bike, typically they use a shorter type of pad. This is kind of your basic pad. This is not a winter rated product really, they're just a general purpose product. Your better bet would be to use a softer compound like a salmon colored pad. Something like this needs a pad carrier. So upgrading from the basic Jaguar road brake pad, we have these ones that come with a nice little set screw. That set screw means you can slide out whatever compound pad you like. Cool Stop makes really great brake pads. They're what they call rim-friendly compounds. These rim-friendly compounds are much less aggressive on your rims. And a lot of people think, oh, whatever, I'm not going to wear my rims. People do wear out the rims, they don't notice, and then all of a sudden they come to the bike shop, you can see they start cracking, and then they need new wheels at the end of the season. It's not going to happen generally in a winter, but if you do this for a couple of years and ride your bike year round, you will wear out your rims. So getting a better quality pad will give you longer lasting rims. Finish Line Wet is probably our go-to. You'll notice it's a very large bottle. It's a much better value. You should just accept you're gonna need lubricant through the season. Wet lubricants, dry lubricants, you'll see these names kind of thrown around. There's lots of different kinds of oils out there and synthetic lubes. Wet and dry, really wet is for wet conditions. It says right on the bottle, extreme riding conditions. The difference between a wet and a dry lube though, a dry lube is intended for dry conditions. So if you use a dry lube in a wet condition, what will happen is it basically rinses right off. You'll have to reapply repeatedly. It arguably would be cleaner, but it won't last long, and usually midway through the ride, or if you ride to work and get wet, on the way home it's probably going to be extremely squeaky and quite unpleasant, and to be very hard on your drivetrain. Wet lubricants, like Finish Line Wet, are going to stay on the chain better. They're going to cling. They're going to hold on to that chain. They will pick up a little more dirt, but they'll stay on the chain. So this comes to our next point, would be degreasing is a very important part of this. If you just keep applying lubricants, you'll notice these are clear. They're not colored, they're not black, they're not grease. This is a chain lube. It's going to be clear, and if it's black, it means it's a bunch of grit and debris in the lubricant. And then effectively what you're doing as you ride, you're going to be just grinding down your chain and your whole drivetrain and all these workable parts on your bike. If you have stiff links, we often recommend what's called a penetrating lube. A lot of folks like Tri-Flow. Tri-Flow is great. It has this handy little straw so you can be really focused on where you want to lubricate. Something like this, a penetrating lube, is a little more caustic. What's it designed to do is penetrate into metal, into crevices, between chain links that are stiff, into bolts that are seized. So it's a very helpful lube to have regardless. So if you're kind of problem solving, trying to lubricate things, this can save you sometimes. It's inexpensive, so it's a great thing to have in the shop. My personal favorite would be Bow Shield T9. Bow Shield is not officially a winter lubricant. It's a metal protectant though. As you apply it, you let it dry. You basically apply in excess, make sure it's fully coated, and if you let it dry, it creates a very tenacious and really tough protective layer. It's a very good starter to the season to make sure you have a really good thorough coating on your chain. So in case you get wet, or in case your lube, if you're using something like a Finish Line Wet or maybe not a wet lube and it washes off, this will help protect against some of that corrosion. Is just whatever you feel comfortable on is going to be your best setup. You can do your due diligence and try your best to choose a good tire, choose appropriate brake pads, doing light maintenance is going to be really important. Cleaning your bike is really undervalued service. It's a great way to spot problems and repair parts before it becomes a safety issue. Thanks for watching with us today. Hope you had a good time. Hope you learned something. Hope you learned about a cool new product you like. If you have any questions, you can always hit us up, shoot us an email, give us a call. We're here to answer your questions. If this feels a little too dense, you're welcome to give us a call. We have a great service department. We'll happily do your installs and help find the right parts for you.